Yeah, it's very, very
Anyway,
important, right? They may take advantage of on you the first time, but the second time is gonna be a little bit less, the third time a little bit less, and then no more because we are
yeah,
learning.
yeah.
We have some questions from Facebook and social media from investors, from agents. What are they're asking? What are some current trends in real estate investing, and how do they impact the relationship between agents and investors?
Right. So it's, a lot of different possibilities there, right? So with the market changing, it's very important to pay attention and, like we've been talking about, develop relationship when the world is changing from a seller's market to a buyer's market, which it is, and you want to be a successful agent. Sure, I mean, it's been this way for a long time. Agents have an easier life when they have listings, right? It's harder to be a buyer's agent. You just seems to me like you have to work harder, right? Now, if it's turning to a buyer's market, well, who I would want to deal with people who are buying lots of property. I would want to develop relationships with people whose job it is to, and I know this is backwards on the camera, but buy houses fast, right? We buy houses fast, and lots of them. And if I can develop that relationship with them and represent them and bring them deals, and by the way, an agent, just because you develop a relationship with somebody, at least in my opinion, as an experienced investor, you're not going to represent that agent in every transaction that they do. But you should, and I think it's fair that you represent them in every transaction that you bring a deal when you bring a deal to them. And there may be some investors who don't even want to deal with closings or marketing or whatever, and they may just let you do all of it because they want to, focus on other parts of their business. But developing relationships with serious, high volume investors, and that sounds so easy and so simple, and it is simple, but it's not easy. It takes serious networking. It takes getting out there and getting into lots of investor networking meetings, shaking hands with people, finding out who's who and what's going on with them, and I got to tell you, you can get creative, I mean, yes, it seems that Trek wants to put, a very small box, around folks, but why not explore and, get creative and just ask people, okay, you're looking for deals. Okay, so if I bring you deals, awesome. Okay, so then you're not just limited to the MLS as an agent. Why not? And for that matter, the more relationships you develop, the more successful you'll be too. Let's say I'm an agent and it's my job to go out and find deals for investors, and that's part of the way I've defined my responsibility. Okay, great. So what if I find one that's just an awesome home run? Do I have to just present it? Do I have to present that opportunity to just one person? Or can I possibly give a call to 3 of them, or send out an email to a dozen, investors, and let them kind of compete for that opportunity where I've got a relationship with that seller, right? And now I'm kind of bridging over into wholesaling a little bit, right? Because the more someone offers for the property, if I've got it under contract at a certain fixed price, the more my buyers clamor to get the property, the more money I'm going to make on the deal. And that's not really the case. It's a little bit the case with a listing, but not exactly, right? With a listing, it's a percentage, and so the higher the sales price, the more money you make. But really, with a wholesale deal, the sales price is already fixed when I write the contract to buy it, and then the investors come. I even have a process. We teach a class on wholesale real estate investing, and I even have a document where I describe when this happens, when I have multiple interested buyers, how do I handle the process? Each person can't just, it's kind of an impromptu auction, and each person doesn't get to just increase their bid by $1. In my world, right, I need them to increase it by $500, because I have limited time, right, if I'm running kind of that impromptu auction like I talked about. So, but anyways, no, I mean, there's, my mind just races, 100 miles an hour with all the possibilities of working with investors if you're an agent, so you can hook them up with lenders. Agents have relationship with inspectors. Maybe a new investor would like to meet one of your inspectors, right? Because they're learning how to estimate repairs on a property. If you refer them and help them develop a relationship with one of your trusted team members, they're they should appreciate that and remember where they got that referral. And by the way, the inspector should also appreciate the agent for referring them, right? And all of this leads to an agent being more successful, right? Yeah, I mean, and the list goes on and on, Yeah.
Valuable.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on,
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they say that when you're buying investment properties and you're selling them for a profit, you're actually making money when you buy the property, not when you
Yes.
sell it. And that goes for the work of the real estate agent and the real estate investor to do evaluation. What are the common mistakes that you see when agents are evaluating properties?
Wow. Okay. So you have to understand. You have to be able to pull comps. When I pull comps, and by the way, this is going to be our topic coming up at DFW Club a week from Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the week after. But a lot of the time they will not see. It's easy to pull a comps report, but then working with an investor is not going to pay a retail price. They're going to want a discounted price, right? So some agents, that have not worked with investors before and may not understand that investors need a big discount. In fact, ideally, they want minimum 80% minus repairs, the repair cost. But in the old days, and maybe it'll get back to the old days, I don't know, but it was more like 70% minus the repair cost. So if you had a $200,000 property, you would start with $140,000, and then if it needs $25,000 in work, okay, let's move that down to $115,000, and that's what I would buy. That's what I would offer you, and at that point they still haven't built in any profit for themselves other than a listing commission, perhaps if they have that relationship with the seller. So they need to understand that. They also need to understand some intangibles. Investors that are going to hold a property don't typically, for insurance reasons and liability reasons, et cetera, they don't typically want properties that have pools. Okay. Now, if it's a high-end property and you're going to do a fix and flip on it, and the neighborhood has pools, lots of pools, and it's common to have a pool, then that's different. Then it's okay to have a pool. But if it's in a working class neighborhood and yours is the only one in the neighborhood with a pool, and you're planning to hold that as an investor and rent it out, you really don't want a pool, in my humble opinion. And most investors, I think, would agree with that. What about questions about converted garages, right? An agent may not realize that, okay, that makes the property more valuable. Well, maybe, but maybe not. Depends on your investor. Maybe not so much. Are converted garages common for the neighborhood or not? Some people that might buy that property or might even want to rent the property might really want the garage. So, you have to understand how the investor thinks about that, and how to value it also. I personally, when I'm dealing with a seller, I tell them, well, the buyer's going to want their garage, so I have to subtract this living space that you've got here in this converted garage when I pull comps, and that's why the value is less than maybe what you think, because it's converted, and people don't want to park their nice brand new 2023 car out, in the driveway in Texas in April, uh, when there's hailstorms, right? So you might have to explain some of that. And two, there's all kinds of other intangibles. You might have a house that's on a kind of a busier street, and you pull the comps report, you may not realize that, oh, okay, this has got a lot of traffic on it. It's not a highway. It may not even be a 4-lane road, but some 2-lane roads are kind of cut through roads for certain neighborhoods, etc., and just have way more traffic. In Watauga, for example, Hightower is one of those. In Hearst, Norwood is one of those. There's different streets in your neighborhood that you could probably think of that you know what I'm talking about. You really better be careful when you back out of the driveway, because it could take you a couple of minutes to back out of the driveway on a street like this, particularly in the morning when you're trying to go to work because of so much traffic. You get the idea. Also, agents may not, realize that they need to go to the house to really value it, because what if there's, like one of our rental properties, it's on a cul-de-sac, which is good, right? But the way the properties are configured, the backyard of our neighbor actually backs up to our front driveway on this cul-de-sac. Well, there's a Rottweiler that lives in that backyard, and they have this, 3.5, 4 foot, storm, what do you call that, cyclone fence, right? And that Rottweiler, literally, he rams his head into that, while he's the dang thing looks like Cujo, from the Stephen King horror movie, right? This is a violent dog, and that you think you pull the cops report, but Cujo isn't on the cops report, right? So, you get the idea, right? There's other things that come into play, when you're trying to value a property, that investors and agents better really, be careful about and pay attention to. Is there a creek running through the backyard? Is there a storm drain running behind the back fence? Is there a fence? Does it matter whether or not there's a fence? What if you have on the roads those road humps, those speed bumps? There are neighborhoods that have speed bumps, in the neighborhood because they don't want cars running really fast through their residential neighborhood. Well, is that a good thing? Well, to some potential buyers, yes. To some potential buyers, not so much, right? Because it hurts their car, when they go over these, and they don't want to have to, and it wears out their brakes faster because they have to brake every time they come to one of those. You get the idea, right? There's so much more than just pulling comps and saying, oh well, it looks like we might have a. And, I mean, we teach, as you can tell, we teach a whole class on this too. We take a whole hour and a half. It's part of our core curriculum at DFW REI Club. So.
That's awesome,
Anyway.
Robin. Thank you so much for being here today with us, talking about real estate investments and real estate agents, how we can together work, how real estate agents can become investors too, and have that mentality on property and have a creative mentality to do business. And that's the type of agents that we like to work with and support. Agents that not only want to make commissions, but that they want to make some really good money for themselves, for the short term and for the long term and for the future. And that's the reason that we really like to work with you, Robin, because you offer some great resources for education in Tarrant County with DFW REI Club. I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. I remember very well. And we really appreciate you being here today, a personal knowledge or real knowledge. I call it there is two things in life. And I remember if I taught a class many, many years ago, 10, 15 years, I don't know how long ago, that it was the combination of being a street smart and having education. And
Right.
I think that you have done both all over these years. Get educated, learning from other people, and being street smart, and teaching agents and people how to be street smart, and that's a good advantage. And thank you for the serving to the community, to the community
Yeah.
all these years.
You're
We
welcome.
really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
too. I would say the same about you too, man. I really appreciate all the benefits and all the service that you've brought to the investor community over time as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you for today.
You're welcome.
We have credits. Thank you for tuning in into the Angel Real Estate Podcast. Today's episode was hosted by me, Juan Carlos Cruz, and our guest expert, Robin Carriger. Our podcast is produced by Angel Real Estate Team with support from our marketing team, Brian Castellanos and Javier Vargas. Our editorial team includes our writing and editor, Jorge Hernandez. We would like to thank you, our audience, for tuning in and supporting our podcast. Your continued support and feedback are essential to our success. To learn more about today's episode or any other topics related to the real estate investing, please visit us at Instagram at angelrealestate.us. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next episode.